Center Ice, Milan. February 19th, 2026. For a heartbeat. The planet itself seemed to quit turning for Alysa Liu. She just delivered a career-defining masterpiece, the last symphonic blasts of MacArthur Park still vibrating against the stadium ceiling. Forget the Ice Queen poise. She crumpled forward, lungs burning, while a smile of absolute radiance split her face in two. Less like some untouchable athletic goddess, she looked exactly like a uni student who just crushed the toughest finals of her life. When the Jumbotron lit up moments later, the numbers rewrote history. 226.79. That figure didn't just secure gold, it drove a stake through the heart of a 24-year American curse. Not since Sarah Hughes in 2002 had the Stars and Stripes claimed the top spot in the women's singles event. For 2 long decades, Team USA had been breathlessly chasing the technical wizardry of global juggernauts, a pursuit that far too often came at the expense of their skaters' psychological well-being. Yet in Milan, Liu vaulted past the defending titans not via quadruple jumps, but through a performance of sheer, undeniable brilliance. She demonstrated that in 2026, the judges were finally rewarding artistry and soul over robotic precision. Amidst the deafening cheers, few realized this golden moment nearly imploded due to a frantic backstage copyright war. The turbulence in Liu's 2026 campaign actually kicked off months prior to the opening ceremony. Her initial game plan? A groundbreaking free skate choreographed to a Lady Gaga mix, anchored by the viral hit Bloody Mary. She'd actually test-driven a cut of it back at the U.S. Championships earlier in the year, and the footage absolutely exploded on TikTok. Racking up over 15 million views in 48 hours, fans dubbed it the Wednesday Addams moment. However, as the games loomed, the Federation's legal squad slammed into a massive obstacle, a licensing catastrophe. Since the Olympic broadcast reaches over 200 distinct territories, every single track requires airtight global distribution clearance. In a twist that Liu found incredibly irritating, the Bloody Mary rights were deadlocked in critical Asian and European markets. With the Milan clock ticking down, she faced a brutal ultimatum: engage in a losing legal brawl or change course immediately. True to her nature, she refused to panic or meltdown. Instead, she dug into her repertoire, resurrected the MacArthur Park layout, and injected it with a fresh, sophisticated dose of Donna Summer flair. She transformed a potential train wreck into a feature, a last-minute system patch that somehow upgraded the entire performance. As she casually remarked to the BBC later, "All right then, Donna Summer it is." That unflappable mindset explains precisely how she eclipsed rivals who had been drilling their same routines for 2 solid years. To truly understand this new iteration of Liu, look no further than the incident occurring 48 hours after she snagged Team Gold. While partying with teammates Amber Glenn and Isabeau Levito, Liu was doing her thing, bouncing off the walls when, in a clip caught by a bystander, she leaped so vigorously that her medal sheared right off its ribbon. The heavy prize struck the concrete with a gut-wrenching clang, skidding across the floor before grinding to a halt. When she finally retrieved the hardware, the surface was marred by deep gashes and dents, a tragedy that would have crushed most athletes holding the symbol of their life's dedication. Liu, however, just stared at the damage, chuckled, and flashed it on Instagram, declaring that the medal now had character. The International Olympic Committee, on the other hand, failed to see the humor. Reports suggest they contacted the American delegation, demanding she swap the battered medallion for a flawless replacement. She fought back at first, contending that the scuffed medal was a better metaphor for her path, imperfect, slightly rough around the edges, yet undeniably gold. She eventually accepted the trade, but that damaged disc defined her 2026 era. She hadn't come to Milan to play the role of a fragile porcelain figurine. She was there as a messy, real human who drops stuff, screws up, and dominates regardless. If her free skate was a disco inferno, her short program served as a raw, intimate diary entry. Choreographed to promise by the Icelandic-Chinese jazz artist Laufey, the piece tackled distance and self-discovery. Lyrics like, "I've done the math. I'm finding my own voice" echoed her 2-year hiatus with eerie precision. Whenever she initiated that opening sequence, a heavy, reverent silence blanketed the arena. Liu confessed that she wept through nearly every single rehearsal for that specific routine. Not out of sorrow, but from the sheer catharsis of uncorking 10 years of bottled-up pressure. Yet, on that night in Milan, the true source of her tears was sitting right there, front row center. It was a career first. The whole clan, the so-called Liu Quintet, sat in the stands watching their big sister own the ice. Back in the day, Alysa was the breadwinner and the wonderkind, a ghost in her own house due to a brutal travel itinerary that kept her apart from her family. But spotting them in the crowd, waving those homemade Team Alysa placards, transformed that gold medal from a heavy solo cross to bear into a collective family victory. The American dream wasn't the fuel anymore. She was skating for 4 kids who just missed their sister and wanted a player too for their video games. When Alysa Liu finally hit the tarmac at San Francisco International Airport, specifically SFO in late February, the reception was unlike anything the California skating world had ever witnessed. And no, she didn't fly private. She was back in coach on a Delta jet, drowning in an oversized hoodie with 2 gold medals casually stuffed in her carry-on. She laughed about it later, apparently. Her seatmate griped for hours about the queues in Milan, oblivious that the Olympic champ was nodding along right next to him. The moment she cleared the golden tunnel at SFO, however, the jig was up. A tidal wave of humanity, including hundreds of pint-sized skaters from her home rink in Oakland, waited to welcome her home. Cruising down Highway 880, her motorcade passed 5 colossal billboards plastered with her face courtesy of the sponsors, naturally. Her first move? She made a beeline for her favorite local haunt, Trabaco in Alameda. Forget the ticker tape parade. The girl just wanted a steaming bowl of fettuccine bolognese. Rumor has it the owner tried to empty the place for VIP privacy, but Alysa shut that down immediately. She slid into a standard booth, dumped the hardware on the table, and chewed the fat while diners snapped selfies. That is the normalcy that cements her status as the most down-to-earth goat ever. She might possess the trophy case of a deity, but she keeps the appetite and vibe of the girl next door. On a technical level, Alysa Liu's victory in 2026 is nothing short of a physiological miracle. Back when she snagged her first US national title at 13, she stood a mere 4'7". She was essentially a tiny spinning top, relying on pure rotational velocity to hammer out those quads. By the time she hit Milan at 20, Alysa had shot up 7 inches. In the unforgiving universe of figure skating, a growth spurt like that is usually a career death sentence. It completely rewrites your center of gravity, alters blade pressure, and throws your jump timing into chaos. Most skaters who stretch out that much lose their triple jumps, let alone their championship form. But Alysa utilized her 2-year hiatus to reintroduce herself to her own body. She ditched the juvenile quad or bust mentality, swapping it for refined axis control and genuine artistry. Collaborating with biomechanics gurus, she retooled her takeoffs, prioritizing the physics of the glide over the brute force of the spin. What emerged was a competitor who looked weightier, more deliberate, and frankly, more expensive on the ice. She also drew a hard line in the sand with her coaching staff. Nobody starves me, and nobody dictates my diet to keep me small. That declaration of independence meant she competed at a sustainable weight, fueling her with the raw stamina to close out her routines with more fire than any of her teenage challengers could muster. For Alysa Liu, triumph in Milan isn't defined by the gold hanging around her neck. It is defined by the autonomy she seized back. She proved to the world that true greatness isn't measured by your capacity for suffering, but by your capacity to choose. She chose to walk away when the rink felt like a jail cell. She chose to lace up again when the craving for speed returned. She embraced her messy raccoon hair, her goofy expressions, and her Donna Summer disco tracks. Ultimately, she chose joy, which turned out to be the deadliest technical strategy of all. She effectively shattered the fragile ice princess stereotype, installing the rebel queen in its place, a victor who puts her sanity above the podium and ends up standing on the top step regardless. As she moves into the spring of 2026, the burning question on everyone's mind remains: will she stick around for the 2030 Games in the French Alps? At 24, she would be an elder stateswoman in a game that often trashes women by 19. But Alysa's outlook is refreshingly practical. She has already booked the headlining spot for the Stars on Ice North American Tour, dragging her MacArthur Park joy to 25 cities starting this April. She is also deep into her psychology degree at UCLA and using her mic to champion youth mental health and elite athletics. When pressed about 2030, she just chuckled, saying she is going to wait and see how the vibes are. She told CNN she already nailed her impossible dream, and now the goal is simply finding what else brings a smile to her face. Whether she decides to guard her crown or hangs up the skates to climb a new mountain, one fact is undeniable. Alysa Liu didn't just snag a gold medal, she reclaimed her existence. She demonstrated that the most elegant maneuver on the ice isn't a quad jump. It is the audacity to be yourself, no matter what the world demands. Milan belongs to her. The golden glitch is etched in history. The 24-year drought is finished, and the Rebel Queen has finally come home.